In this recording, I want to show one more example, this one where the track that we're creating doesn't form a closed loop. So in this case, it's the Blue Mountains Challenge course in Blue Mountains, Wisconsin, or Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. So I'm actually going to pull up an old GPX file from when I rode out there and did the race, and I've got a ride home. So to the race, fourth, open. All right, so that's uploaded. It's going to take a second to render. There we go. So it's drawing. All right, so first we're going to use the make loop function, and there's now a couple of checkbox options here: add connecting curve, correct start end elevation. In this case, we're not going to do either of these because this race starts a little bit down the hill and finishes at the very top of the hill. So I want the start and end to be separate, but I still want to extract a subset of a track. So I guess in this case it's not a loop, but semantics are hard sometimes. So what we'll do once this is loaded up is select first I guess the start and end actually don't matter with this make loop workflow, but we'll select both the start and end location for this lap or this loop of the race and extract it, and then I'll show how I'll work on the elevation data. And once again, apologies for the kind of slow map rendering. You just have to be patient, I guess, and I'll be working on the performance soon. All right, so this does come back eventually, and as you can see, I rode to the course. We're going to cut all that off and just pick out this part of the track here. Okay, so let's zoom in here, and that's a shift. Holding shift gives you that zoom window. All right, so the start is actually down here, and the finish was up here somewhere. So if we zoom in, finish was just past this park road somewhere, and you can see this point spacing here is more spaced out because I was going fast. The other one was maybe warming up or riding into the park. So let's use, say, 10653 here as one of the ends. And then the start of the race is kind of around, and this is down a hill down here. You can see, looks like I rode down the hill and then stopped here and probably stopped my GPS. And I think from looking at this before, I started my GPS again a little bit down the hill. So this point here is the one that I want, the 6575. Okay, and I've got these two unchecked. I can go do it and see what we get. All right, so this is just trimming that GPX and returning the track. Should render fairly quickly, but this is still a lot of points. So the first time that I built this course, I accidentally corrected start and end elevation. So you can see here, the loop came back and the start is down here at something like 300 and whatever that is, 15. I'm guessing this is meters. And the end is up a bit higher. So I accidentally used this correct start end elevation option, and this is just a good opportunity to highlight what this does. And so what it did was to basically force the course to be slightly more downhill, so it adjusts all the elevations from the start to the end so that the start and the end of the loop are the same. And that's really useful if you have something you want to be a loop, so that the start and finish are exactly the same elevation. But in this case, since this isn't a loop, we don't want to apply that correction. And when I uploaded it to RGT, it ended up being a very strange situation because some of these roads actually overlap each other and should be the same elevation, but they were right next to each other and kind of in a canyon over to the side. It was very, very strange. So anyways, so what we end up with here should be just the kind of out and back pigtail of this course. We'll see if this works as a magic road, see what RGT does with it, but this is a great race course. So you come down the hill, and it's 2 laps of this kind of hilly loop out here, and then a climb back up to the finish, as you can see here. Okay, so for the elevation cleanup, I'm not that interested. So let's just pick a few points here. We'll go. Okay, so from 1 to here's a 0.101. I want to keep that peak there. 101. Let's use a. Actually, I guess before I do this, this is a little bit off the cuff and live, but I think that's worth demonstrating. Let's resample the track to let's use, just for the sake of speed, 8-meter spacing. All right, so this is going to bring back this track kind of resampled to a uniform spacing so that when I go apply this elevation smoothing, things behave a little more nicely. All right, so that should redraw, and then we can pick out IDs for our elevation control points. And I know what I'm going to be working on next is this drawing performance. Okay, so let's keep a few of these dips and dives. I guess this initial descent, I'm really not that worried about it. So let's not worry about that. Let's pick out maybe this low point, min, so 713. Let's use a smoothing factor of 10, other than our control points. So we'll go there. The max there is 849, and I'm looking at these numbers here when I click. This low point, 981. Grab this high point, 1178. And then, you know what, let's just do a smoothing of like 5 through here. Well, let's just leave the smoothing at 10 and not worry about that too much. We'll get that high point, 1950. Whoops. Let's get a new line. All right, so then let's just smooth all this down to here. So that's 2476 for our min. And then you can fast forward through all this if you like. I'm just going to get the rest of these peaks and valleys. $27.30 as a min. We'll grab this max. $29.17. Not going to worry about that valley. We'll get that peak. It's 3703. And then I'm not going to worry about this valley either. I do want to capture, just because this is kind of an important detail of the finish, we'll capture this a little up and down. So that's 4663. And 4703. Okay, so I'm just demonstrating kind of how you can click across the elevation profile, picking out your mins and maxes that are going to be your control points, Start and finish are always kind of going to be control points, no matter what you do. You got to leave in this one, and then I'm just using a uniform 10-point smoothing factor for now, just to make sure we get rid of any of the major kind of jumps and whatever. All right, so if I hit preview smooth elevation, we should get back a nice smooth curve. And this is manual for a reason. This is all about picking out the important elevation kind of details of a course for a race or a ride. So there's not really any automation to be had here. These control points are all about what do you want to be particular about, and the algorithm that's running in the background, near the control points, it reduces the window size, and far away from the control points, it attempts to get out to this this window size. So we've now applied this smoothing of 10 points, and these points are spaced 8 meters apart. So we've got an kind of 80 meter rolling mean elevation applied across this, and so that won't have changed things too much, but we've for sure made sure that we maintained the kind of critical points in the profile. And you can see here, because the points that are clicked are mins and max, so if I just click in space here, we get 411 and 400 are as the max elevation within that click window, and the min elevation within the click window. I was using those maximums and minimums as what I was putting in here, and so that's what we got back. Okay, so that's the example of producing a track that's not a loop, that's point to point, and extracting it from an existing GPS track. The one last thing that we could do would be to then simplify the track. So say we wanted to take out any kind of weird wiggly stuff in the track. Let's put in a 0.5 meter, 0.3 meter, whatever. I've not played with this enough to know exactly what the effect is. So this will be trial and error for you. So I'll put in a simplification tolerance and go ahead and do that. So that's going to take, it's not going to modify the elevation, it's just going to modify the geospatial horizontally data, the horizontal geospatial data. And you can see here it has dropped out some of our points, and it shouldn't have affected, it didn't affect the elevation data at all. And I guess I'm not entirely sure what it did. So you'll have to kind of play around and see exactly if it's worth simplifying or not. But I just want to make everybody aware that that's there. You can always click undo and go back to what you had. So I'm going to go undo and then download that original kind of dense point data and we'll upload that as a Magic Road and see how it rides. So that's what I have for you. Once that's redrawn, you should be able to hit Save Track, get yourself a GPX to email off as a Magic Road to RGT. So thanks for checking this out. All right, and in case you're like me and you watched to the end, it did redraw. It did go back to exactly what I had. Ta-da.